The Rise of Skywalker is set to introduce many different aspects to the Star Wars franchise that fans have never seen before in the Skywalker saga by director J.J. Abrams. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. So we are now 174 days away from the release of this film. With each and every day that passes by, it's getting narrower and narrower until we are going to get that actual release of this movie and get an idea of exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to close the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very intense for Episode 9. Now, specifically, a description of one of the sequences and shot descriptions of a sequence based within the first act of the film, where it's described that Kylo Ren is inside of his chambers on board of the First Order Ravager ship, where it's said that he is holding Darth Vader's melted helmet in both of his hands, and resting his forehead against the mask of his grandfather, with his eyes closed and focusing on something. It's described that in the background on a shelf, it's said that Vader's skull can be seen collected by Kylo in a chamber full of green fluid of some kind. The fluid is said to be murky, where Vader's skull is very faint through the glass. In the Star Wars films, this wouldn't be the first time a skull was seen, such as when Owen and Beru's skeletons were seen in Star Wars A New Hope. Additionally, it's said that Kylo eventually puts down the Darth Vader helmet and walks toward a small table full of ashes that is said to be the remains of Darth Vader that were retrieved by the Dark Acolytes years ago and stolen by the Knights of Ren and later given to Kylo. Kylo is said to place the melted helmet in the ashes, where he eventually looks out a large window in his chambers as his Ravager approaches a large green world. So I want to go over a couple of parts about this, because we do know that J.J. Abrams has one goal in mind here for Episode 9, and that is of course to make Darth Vader a figurative ghost in this movie. And what I mean by that is that we're going to have Darth Vader looming in the background, having a lot of these different Easter eggs or references or little callbacks here and there to Darth Vader that's really going to make us look back at the past 8 movies. Now, it really does open up one's eyes, right? When we think about Episode 9, we think about this being a very important film by Disney and Lucasfilm, in which it is, but at the same exact time, we do know that JJ has one plan in place as well, is to have certain moments in the movie to be darker than that of Revenge of the Sith, to be the darkest Star Wars film in the franchise's history. And this definitely would top the list, to actually see Vader's skull inside of a chamber full of green fluid that is somewhat murky, making the appearance of the skull somewhat faint and hard to see. Kind of similar to how Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader was seen in his Bacta tank in Rogue One. That's kind of what it reminds me of, except somewhat different. Now, when we think about this though, the ashes of Darth Vader being collected by Kylo Ren himself, that was handed down by the Knights of Ren, who in turn stole it from the Acolytes of the Beyond. Now, the Dark Acolytes, are said to be a major piece of storytelling in Episode 9. At least one of them is, of course, going to be the main villain in the third act of this movie that will hold a connection to the spirit of Sidious. So what do I think about this opening sequence based within the first act of the movie, where Kylo is on board of his Ravager, and he's exploring, the Darth Vader helmet. He's actually focusing on the helmet. He's got his eyes closed. He's pretty much, resting his forehead on his grandfather's mask during a meditation session. It really seems to be a very emotional, dark, and gritty moment that is somewhat modeled after the art of The Force Awakens that never made it to the final cut of that movie. You guys may remember that, in the original cut or original ideas of The Force Awakens, there was a moment in which Kylo was holding Vader's helmet in a very Shakespeare way, and that's exactly what they're trying to do with this movie, is to make it more artistic, if you will, in Episode 9. So with that being said, this whole entire sequence where he's inside of his chambers, he's by himself, he eventually looks out to a window as the Ravager is approaching a green world. Now, is this the same exact world that is the location of the exotic city? It most likely is, because we do know that when Rey, Poe, and Finn, as well as Chewbacca, C-3PO, everybody else, when they go to that green world, it's the location of the exotic city, where eventually the First Order intervenes, since there is an outpost over there, and somebody reports that Rey and her crew are actually over on that world. So you can see how everything is really starting to piece together for this film, and how the first act really is going to set up everything with the figurative ghost of Darth Vader basically being used as a way to inspire Kylo Ren and to encourage Kylo Ren to keep moving forward through the dark side of the Force itself. And I think that's one great thing that JJ set up in The Force Awakens by use of the melted helmet and a couple of Darth Vader references. You know, we also know that Rey said to Kylo in Episode 7, you know, that you'll never be as strong as Darth Vader. That's what he's really afraid of. So that's definitely going to be his mission in Episode 9, is to become stronger, or at least equal to his grandfather's strength in Episode 9, which we'll have to wait and see, you know, if he's really going to be able to do that successfully. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.